Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. It has been an intense week with a lot of us trying to process the results of last week's presidential election. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting myself, especially as a reader who, for the past year, has been getting a very different result than the one that we received in the results last week. So today I just wanted to jump on and share some of my experience and also some of the guidance that I've received from my guides and my spirit team on how to move forward from here. But before I do that, just a quick note, especially for YouTube's rules and algorithms that seem to be especially sensitive these days. And for everyone watching, I just wanted to remind you all that the information that I share today and every day on this channel is information that I receive from my guides and my spirit team. I don't have any insider information, so I don't want to get flagged for that kind of thing. But it is information that it's my channeled information and reading information that I receive from my spirit team. And this is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, now we've got that out of the way. Let's dive into this. Let's talk about predictions. For the past year, so many readers have been getting a very different result. We had predicted that Kamala Harris would win this election. And I, for myself, as I mentioned, I had been getting that result. And it was consistent and very specific. It was that she would win. And while it wouldn't be by a landslide, it would be by a bigger margin than expected. And I got that consistently. So let me just go through a little bit about what I did or my experience was prior to the election. So about a week before the election, I decided that I would do readings on a state-by-state basis just to see where the energy was. And I used for this divining rods. A little bit about how I read. I primarily read when I'm reading for individuals or in general, I primarily read with tarot cards and channeling. And I also do work with mediumship if that comes up in a reading. Another tool that I use are divining rods. And if you're not familiar with divining rods, I'll do a video on that in the future because it's quite a unique tool and it works really well in certain circumstances. And I also do some spirit orb work, recording spirit orbs, which I love. And again, if you're not familiar with that, I'll do a little bit about that in an upcoming video. But for this particular reading that I was going to do on the states, I used divining rods. And divining rods are good because they can give you a yes, a no, a leaning one way or another, or undecided, or that kind of thing. So I went through state by state using the divining rods, and the result that I got was that she would end up with about 285 electoral votes, and that there were maybe another 70 or so that were leaning that way. But that's what I got. So then I decided that what I would do the day before the election is to do an update of that, just to see where the energy was, because energy shifts. And it's one of the wonderful gifts and superpowers of being on this planet is you have the gift of free will that can change things. So I wanted to do another reading. And I did the same thing. I used the divining rods. I went through all of the states. But the very odd thing was that for at least 20 states. I could not get a reading on. I got nothing. And the thing that's peculiar about that, or I thought at the time was very peculiar, was that they were even for states that were no-brainers, that were going to go one way or the other, like California. California is going to go blue, or New York, or Illinois. There were ones that should have been solid, and I got nothing, no movement, nothing. So I thought, after I went through the states, I went back to those states and I tried it again. Nothing. And I tried it again. Nothing. So I thought, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I am not, maybe I'm too emotionally attached. Maybe I'm not detached enough to be able to read this accurately, being such a monumental election. So I just passed it off as that. In hindsight, I don't think that was the case. I think that things were already shifting. And I have discovered that at least a dozen readers that I know about this, they had their own quirky experience, most of them the day of the election. I know one that woke up about 3 a.m. and just felt physically ill and very stressed and very anxious. And there were other similar experiences with other readers. I now, in hindsight, know that it wasn't just me, that there was something that was going on. I liken it to, what's that quote in Star Wars from Obi-Wan Kenobi when he says, "There's been a disturbance in the Force." So I think that's something there was definitely going on. So now fast forward to the night of the election. I was glued to the results, getting the results like most people. And as the evening wore on, the results were bizarre. It was just seemed unimaginable. And so I thought, surely they're going to correct this. And they're going to let us know that, oh, these votes have now come in or whatever. And we would have the result that I expected and that I had been getting for a year. But it didn't. And it got worse. And I stayed with it till about 3:30 in the morning because I was certain this was not right and something was going to change. But it didn't. And a little after 3:30, I dragged myself to bed in shock with everyone else. The next day, I went through a myriad of emotions, from shock, bewilderment, to anger. And I knew that I was going to need to have not a come to Jesus moment with my spirit team, more like a, what the hell was this about, meeting with my spirit team. But I also knew, because I was so upset about this and emotionally involved in this, that it was not a good time to try to connect with my spirit team. My experience is that when you're connecting, you really need to be raising your vibration. You have to be at a higher vibrational level, and you have to be detached from the outcome. You have to be in a place of allowing the information that's going to come in without judgment, so that you can accurately be a good receiver of the information. And I was not that at the time. And so I did what I know to do when situations like this come up, or when you're in those kinds of states. And that is to try and raise your vibration. So over the next couple of days, I spent a lot of time in self-love and in trying to raise my vibration by being kind to myself and taking care of myself and supporting myself and nurturing myself through those days until I could get back on an even keel. And after a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, I was at a place where I could connect with my spirit team. And when I did, I had a lot of questions like, are these results correct? What happened? Why? And how did this happen? Those were all things that I wanted to know about. And so here's the information that I received that I will share with you. On my question about, are these results correct? What I received is no, but with a caveat. And I wrote some notes here because I want to make sure that I get this right, because there were some pretty specific things. What I received was that the results were manipulated, but that eventually this information was going to come out. Now, the timing of that I have not gotten yet, and maybe because things are still fluid. But what was for certain is that there was manipulation, but that would become known. And the caveat was that while the vote, the majority, did go to Harris, many, but not the majority, decided to vote their grievance and against their own interests. Although many in that process were not thinking, I am voting for my own, against my own interests. There are some that didn't care, some that were just followers and, yeah, it's my own interest, so what? I'm in grievance and anger. But others did not think that they were voting their grievance. It was more of a, yes, there are going to be some awful things that will come as a result of this vote or result of this person getting elected, but this person is after the other, not me. They're after the other, and so that's okay. So there was a lot of that, and there were a lot of people that stayed home. All of that together was not a majority, but that made it easier to be able to manipulate. That closeness made it easier to manipulate the results. That's what I got. Again, entertainment purposes only. This is from my spirit team, from my guides. And another question that I had for my team was, what happens now? What's going to happen now? And what I was told was that what transpires now is going to be difficult and painful to watch, especially for those who chose differently, who voted for a more inclusive result or outcome, a more conscious vote, and were maybe hopeful for or wanted an outcome that was more hopeful and more joyful. So it's going to be a process. I asked about why this outcome? What happened here? Why did we go down this route? And so what I got then were two images. And sometimes when my spirit team is making a point or wants to convey something to me, and I'm sure for those of you who read and or for those of you who are intuitively aware, our guides are always trying to find the best way to get the information to us in a way that resonates with us. So what I got were two images of individuals that I had been close to in my life. One is now deceased, but the other is still on this plane. And they were people that I loved and that I still love. And I saw these images and I wasn't quite getting it and asked, what is this? And so I was told, I was reminded to remember the relationship that I had with them. And that relationship involved a lot of my rescuing with them. That was my relationship with them. There were many times when they would repeat the same pattern of poor choices for themselves and find themselves in situations where they needed rescuing. And sometimes that was financial, sometimes that was emotional, all kinds of things, time, whatever. And because I had the means and I loved them, they would come to me. And of course, I was always happy to help. They were people that I loved. But this was a pattern that went on for most of my life with these two individuals. And actually, when I look at my life, I'm sure that there are other people, but these two were very close to me. And as things went on, those patterns of behavior with them, they never changed because there was somebody to always rescue them, somebody to always take care of them. And when you were not needed, you were tossed aside. And that was a form of abusiveness, which escalated as the years went by. There came a time, with the help of my guides, that I finally set up boundaries there, which was very painful, very hard for me to allow their bad choices, for them to experience their bad choices. But back then, I remember the guidance that I received was that every soul learns at a pace and in a way that's best for them. We don't all learn things in the same way. Different people, different soul levels learn different. And to rescue is to enable, but it is also to deprive that soul of the way that soul knows they best learn, the way that they best learn. So if you're rescuing them, if you're enabling them, they never get that chance to experience their choices. And so I was asked to remember that relationship. And the reason for that is that's the situation that we're in. There are souls that have, regardless of the choices that they've made or the fear that they live in or the grievance that they've had, the choices that they're making, even though they've been told this is what we're going to do, that their experience is not one of having to experience the consequences of those choices. So what I've been told is that things are going to get painful and difficult to watch, but that what's coming up is not a punishment for them. It's not a punishment for these souls, but rather that it's an opportunity for them to learn the lesson that they have stepped up to learn. Not necessarily on a conscious level, but on a higher level. These souls know that it's time to learn this lesson, and they're going to get that opportunity. And so this is about allowing that. One of the things that I said was, oh, great, but they're going to take the rest of us with them. And what I was told is that the experiences that are to come will be very different. Those souls that need to understand this, understand their choices and what that means, it's going to be a different experience than those who have learned that lesson and are looking to move forward and into an energy of fairness and inclusiveness and joy rather than grievance and anger and rage. And fear is usually is at the bottom of that. It's a fear of the other, fear of if you have some, then maybe you're taking mine, that kind of thing. So they will be very different experiences that will happen here. But what I'm told is that it is very important, and this is our homework that I was given by them. Our homework in navigating through what comes next is staying in a higher vibration. It is so very important for us to do whatever it is that we need to do to raise our vibration, to be conscious of staying in a higher frequency and a higher vibration. And I've talked about this before because it's something that they keep harping on. Some of the ways of doing that is by self-love. So important right now. It is so important to pay attention to what you need and how you can support yourself, to be kind to yourself, to pay attention to your self-talk and how you treat yourself. Think about a friend, a dear friend that you may have in times when that friend might need support because of something they're going through, and how you would be there to take care of them, to support them, to be kinder to them. You need to be that friend to yourself. It helps to raise your frequency, your energetic vibration. Joy. I talk a lot about joy because it's what they harp on again. And joy, to be clear, is not the same thing as happiness. Happiness tends to be external. It depends upon external things. Joy is internal. Joy is that place that gives us delight. It's where inspiration comes from. It's where creativity comes from. It's a very high vibration, and there are lots of ways to access that. And I have some videos on that, but just a few here. If you find yourself, as we do these days, feeling stressed or anxious, and all, ask yourself, stop in that moment, break that cycle, stop in that moment and ask yourself, with what I have, with what I know, with what's around me, what is it that in this moment would give me joy? And then go do it. Go be in it. Go look at it, whatever it is, whether it's an activity, whether it's something. I know for me, and I've said this before, I love flowers, and I love bringing flowers home and cleaning them and cutting them and arranging them in vases and putting them around my home. Oh, it gives me such joy. That's an easy go-to for me. Take a look at what it is that gives you joy and do that. And our guides understand that we're human. We're on this plane. We're not the ethers at this point. And so they don't expect us to be in that state 24/7. But when you find yourself in a denser vibration, anger, grievance, rage, any of those things, stop yourself right there and just try and get yourself, shift that energy into a higher vibration. And what I'm told is that it is so important right now because when you raise your vibration, it places you in a position to be able to more easily access the guidance, the answers, the solutions, the inspirations that you seek in those moments. But not only does it raise your vibration, but your vibration, your very presence has a tremendous effect on those around you. without even saying a word, the energy that you carry has a tremendous effect of your environment. So it's so important to, especially as we're moving into these turbulent times, to do everything that you can to keep your vibration higher so that we can, as a collective, access a better outcome in a quicker, easier way. You know, and a little bit thinking about the election, we weren't able to get there with just Democrats and some Republicans and some independents. Some wasn't enough. We need more of us. And this experience, this lesson is going to help more of us get there so that we can collectively go to a better outcome. So I just want to say that everything, from what I've been getting, everything, regardless of how things sometimes look and feel, everything is going to be okay. I am certain of that and have been reassured of that. But in the meantime, taking good care of yourself is very important to help you navigate what comes next. So be kind, be good to yourself, learn to be in love with yourself, and be in joy, because the universe loves us very much and is always working for us and on our behalf. So with that, I want to thank you for joining me today. And I just wanted to share some of what I've received. And I hope that it's helpful. Thanks so much.